Good evening. I'm Erin Burnett. Out front tonight, the enemy is within. The Speaker of the House pointing the finger at members of Congress when it comes to security at the Capitol.
The enemy is within the House of Representatives.
What exactly did you mean when you said that the enemy is within? What exactly did you mean by that?
It means that we have members of Congress who want to bring guns on the floor and have threatened violence on other members of Congress.
It comes amid growing Democratic calls to censure, even expel, the QAnon-aligned Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. The Republicans remain silent, even after, among other things, she has indicated her support for executing Democratic politicians and has supported, among other truly bizarre conspiracy theories, that a plane didn't fly into the Pentagon on 9/11, that the Parkland High School shooting, in which 17 people were killed, kids, was engineered by left-wing anti-gun proponents.
What I'm concerned about is the Republican leadership in the House of Representatives, who is willing to overlook, ignore those statements. What could they be thinking? Or is thinking too generous a word for what they might be doing?
Well, the Republican leadership did not answer the question of what they were thinking because the leader was busy. Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, whose office has said he will talk to Greene, despite, of course, giving her a plum Education Committee assignment, well, he was traveling to visit the former president. Now, that in and of itself is pretty striking. A publicly announced meeting between a party leader and a former president just 8 days after a new president has been sworn in. I mean, that in and of itself is a very significant statement. McCarthy's goal in doing this is to ensure he's back in Trump's good graces. And the reason that he needs to go kiss Trump's ring in person is because that there was a day when McCarthy, with emotion, spoke what he clearly believes, which happens to be the truth about the Capitol insurrection.
The president bears responsibility for Wednesday's attack on Congress by mob rioters.
So he said it. But then 8 days passed. The political winds in the deep, deep base of the GOP were still blowing Trump's way. And so McCarthy just up and flipped the switch.
Do you believe that former President Trump provoked?
I don't believe he provoked if you listen to what he said at the rally.
So the absurdity of such a flip is why a lot of people have discussed for politicians. But the truth is McCarthy got what he wanted from Trump today when, to go down and, make his amends. Trump releasing a statement after his meeting with McCarthy. The former president says, quote, President Trump's popularity has never been stronger than it is today, and his endorsement means more than perhaps any endorsement at any time. President Trump has agreed to work with Leader McCarthy on helping the Republican Party to become a majority in the House. Not the Republican Party, let's just be clear here. The Republican Party of Trump, because it's two different parties now. McCarthy has bought all into the Trump part. It's clear that for him, Trump is still more important than truth. And McCarthy is not alone in his buy-in into this whole Trump mythology. Just a short time ago, the Republican congressman from Florida, Matt Gaetz, got on planes, traveled more than 1,500 miles from his district to attack his Republican colleague Liz Cheney in Wyoming, all there to go to a rally against someone in his own party. Why? Well, because Cheney did not buy into Trump's big lie. She didn't cast doubt on the election results, and she also voted to impeach the former president for inciting the insurrection. She wrote, quote, the president of the United States summoned this mob, assembled the mob, and lit the flame of this attack. Everything that followed was his doing. None of this would have happened without the president. Now, this is true, and it is a fact. Now, Liz Cheney, unlike Kevin McCarthy, never flipped from that. She never wavered. And the price for that now in the Trump GOP is to crush her.
We are in a battle for the soul of the Republican Party, and I intend to win it. You can help me. You can help me break a corrupt system. You can send a representative who actually represents you, and you can send Liz Cheney home, back home to Washington, D.C.
They're in the same party. So, for a party that rails against cancel culture, they sure are canceling a lot of people, right? They love the word cancel culture. Canceling Liz Cheney, right? That's the latest. She happened to speak the truth. They also, of course, Republican Party with a censure in Arizona, canceling the Republican Arizona Governor Doug Ducey because he did not buy into the election fraud lie. They also canceled Cindy McCain for not backing Trump. After Trump, of course, personally disparaged and demeaned her husband even after he died. it seems that Matt Gaetz should probably, I mean, if he's consistent, be outraged at Matt Gaetz.
You are canceled. That is the news of the day today. Cancel culture is in its ultimate zenith. We are living in the renaissance of cancel culture.
I'm not for the cancel culture.
Well, except for you are. Manu Raju is out front live on Capitol Hill. Manu, one day after McCarthy tells Republicans to, quote, cut out the crap, you know, this nasty infighting, you've got Gaetz traveling 1,500 miles in a pandemic to tell people in Wyoming to vote against a sitting Republican member of leadership, okay? So if that's cutting out the crap, you know, okay. And the Democrats, though, are really upping the rhetoric with some of these charges.
Yeah, it is pretty remarkable to see. The tension is palpable on both sides, particularly from the Democrats geared towards the Republicans in the aftermath of the violence that we saw on Capitol Hill. We've seen some Democrats suggest that some Republican members gave inside information to these insurrectionists who came and stormed the Capitol. We don't know who has done that, or if there's evidence of that, but we do know there's an investigation looking into that. We've also seen metal detectors being placed at all the entrances to the House chambers. An extraordinary move, and partly why Nancy Pelosi today said that the enemy is within the House of Representatives, noting how some members have tried to bring firearms onto the House floor. And then in this pretty remarkable tweet just earlier today, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the New York Democratic progressive firebrand, fired back at Ted Cruz, the Texas Republican, saying, I'm happy to work with Republicans on this issue where there's common ground, but you almost had me murdered 3 weeks ago, so you can sit this one out. She went on to say, happy to work with almost any other GOP that aren't trying to get me killed. In the meantime, if you want to help, you can resign. Now, Cruz responded saying that partisan anger is not healthy for this country, but that all goes back to what happened on January 6th. Cruz objected to the state of Arizona's electoral results, joined House Republicans. During that debate, of course, is when the rioters came in on Capitol Hill. They led to the deadly violence, ransacked this building that I'm in right now. Later, Cruz joined his handful of Republicans to vote to overturn that state's results. It also happened in Pennsylvania. They failed in that effort, but the tension from that day still very apparent here, just several weeks later here, Aaron.
But obviously, you know, when you look at the situation with Kevin McCarthy today, right, this unprecedented meeting with the former president, that's what he went ahead and did, right, as opposed to dealing with the crisis within his own party and the issue of Marjorie Taylor Greene, which his own office has said is serious and he's going to address.
Yeah, no question. McCarthy said that he would actually have a conversation with Marjorie Taylor Greene. There's no indication that has happened just yet. He actually has not addressed it himself. He's only said it through a spokesperson that he believes Greene's comments were, quote, deeply disturbing. But I can tell you, Aaron, that behind the scenes, there has not been much movement yet to discipline her on the Republican side of the aisle. No indication she'll be stripped from a committee assignment. Certainly no indication that there's movement among Republicans to join Democrats to try to expel her from the House. So her actions that happened before Congress will undoubtedly be scrutinized. If she continues to press ahead on some of these pretty outrageous claims, we'll see how Republicans respond then. Aaron.
All right. Thank you very much, Manu.